Welcome, everybody. In this video, we'll be creating a simple invoice template. This is especially helpful for small businesses or entrepreneurs just starting out. Let's start by setting up a format in Excel. If you look at the bottom right corner and select the page layout or print layout option, you'll get a more invoice-friendly view. This layout gives you the ability to edit the header, allowing you to insert your company logo and name, providing a consistent and professional appearance across each page. We'll come back to tidy that section up later, giving you some time to finalize how you want your invoice branding to look. You'll also want to display the word invoice somewhere on the Excel sheet. I could have placed it in the header, but I've chosen not to, in case you'd prefer more flexibility in layout. There are certain components typically required in standard invoices and in delivery notes as well, such as the billing address. I'll be using the label billing information with the address to the right of it. For the purpose of this video, I'll use placeholder text. You should also include the customer's email address and contact person's name to complete the billing information. If you'd like, you can add extra details, such as the customer's phone number. That's entirely up to your preference. Next, you'll want to add sections for the invoice date, a unique reference number for that specific order, the payment due date, the customer account number if you use one. To make these fields look more presentable, we'll apply cell borders around them. These borders help create clearly defined fields that are easy to fill out, either digitally or by hand if printed. Now that we've added the business logo and name and completed the invoice details like billing information, dates, and references, we can move on to the body of the invoice. This is where you'll list the items you're selling. In this example, we'll be selling tiles, so we'll include the item name, product ID, and size details. It's standard to list the unit price of each item and indicate the quantity being sold. You can easily calculate the total by applying a simple multiplication formula. I'll add a sum formula to calculate the total cost for each item listed in the body of the invoice. After applying the sum formula, you can then incorporate the tax component. For this example, we'll use 12%. Using another simple formula, select the total value excluding tax and multiply it by 1.12, which accounts for the tax. You can also place borders around these invoice values for better presentation. To do this, go to the Borders section under the Home tab, then select More Borders at the bottom. We'll choose a thin, solid line style and apply it horizontally within the body of the invoice. Once that's done, we'll tidy up the formatting. Now, let's move to the next tab where I've kept a list of tile specs. We'll use a few of these items in our sample invoice for this demonstration. Excuse me for this, but I'll be using a function to help create a completed invoice template. We'll use the rand-between function to generate sample unit prices and quantities. If you're curious about the formula, feel free to check out the short video I recently published on my channel that shows you how to use it. Once you've set up the unit prices and quantities, you can drag the formula down to complete the rest of the invoice template. For a more interactive but still basic option, you can add a section for notes if needed. This can be really helpful if you want to include specific instructions or additional details during the transaction process. We can't forget the payment information. You'll need to provide your customer with the details they need to pay the invoice, ensuring you receive the payment in your bank account. Start by adding your bank's name and account number. I understand that different countries may require more details, but with this Excel invoice template, you can always add another row if needed. For now, let's wrap it up with neat borders. At this point, we have the standard information on the invoice, but it may still look a bit basic and not very polished. Remember, this tutorial is for beginners creating a simple invoice in Excel, but we're aiming to present it with a professional appearance. We'll use some simple Excel functions to improve the look. First, let's add some color to make it soft on the eyes by highlighting the rows and columns you want, and then apply the color of your choice. I like using a light gray or silver. Well, I think it's silver, but it's subtle and looks clean. We'll also designate a more identifiable area for the notes section. To do this, highlight enough rows and columns to allow for any notes you might want to include on a printed invoice. You can use the merge option and choose a color that's one shade darker if you prefer. Don't forget to add the word Notes in the top left corner. Finally, we'll apply the same color and formatting to the same number of rows and columns as we did for the note section. We still have the option to add something in the footer. You could include your company slogan if you have one, or a thank you note. For this example, I'd like to end the invoice with a note of gratitude. It's starting to look like a proper invoice now, but we can still improve it. Now, remember the business logo and name we mentioned earlier? Let's go ahead and add an image of your business logo into the Excel file. Head to the header and footer ribbon and select Page Setup. From there, you'll be able to edit the header and select the option to insert an image. Don't be surprised by the initial size of the image. You can resize it to suit your preferences. The invoice still needs a few more adjustments to make it look more polished. Oops, I forgot to label the totals. Let me quickly do that before we move on. Also, the random functions are still in place. Let's copy and paste the values for the unit prices and quantities. To complete the banking information, make sure to advise the customer on the reference they should use when making a payment. This helps both parties allocate the payment correctly. You can decide on the reference format. It could be the customer reference or the invoice reference. Using a simple formula to link the cell you want will help maintain consistency in future invoices, ensuring that either the invoice reference or customer account remains the same. Now that we have all the necessary invoice fields, we can go ahead and add sample information to complete the invoice. I'd like to show you another way to capture your items from the inventory list, making it easier to select products when creating an invoice. Instead of manually entering items from an already set inventory list, we can use basic Excel functions like data validation to streamline the item selection process. Let's go to Data Validation, select the List option, and then choose the tiles you want to appear when capturing items on the invoice. To ensure this is applied to all lines, simply drag the format down the rest of the invoice body. Once you have the list of items, you can use the VLOOKUP function to automatically pull in the code and measurements. Start by typing the VLOOKUP function, select the item, and then navigate to the data file where your inventory list is stored. Select the item column, then the column containing the outcome you need, and specify the number of columns to look up. Set it to false for an exact match. Repeat this process for measurements. Once you drag down the VLOOKUP function, it may produce a not applicable result in rows without items. We can fix this using the if error function by typing a formula that reads, "If there is an error, leave the cell blank." This will remove all unwanted error messages. You can apply the same approach for measurements as well. You can also update your inventory list to include unit prices so you don't have to add them manually to the invoice. Use the same principle as we did with the product code and measurements. For the purpose of this invoice template, we will use the ran between function followed by the VLOOKUP function. Let's tweak it a bit. You can zoom out to get a better view of how the invoice will look when printed. It's all about making it look professional, clean, and clear in its presentation. All the formulas used in this video have been covered on my channel, so feel free to check them out. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe.